Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tab. Glad you made it today. Today I wanted to talk to you about 4 special presumptive conditions that many folks are not aware of. And it's important that we get this information out there because if you end up with one of these conditions or you know another veteran who comes down with one of these conditions, they need to know if they fit into this presumptive model because the presumptive conditions with the VA eliminate your need for a nexus. You do not need to prove that that condition was caused during your service in the military. Now, if that's something you're into, please hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all of that good stuff. It helps to get this information out to those that really need it. It might be you who needs it, or it might be somebody else who needs it, and we need to get the information to get as wide of a disbursement as we can, right? So within the VA system, there are presumptive conditions, right? We've heard about it a lot, and there are 4 specific ones. And I did a video recently, a couple days ago, on the presumptive list of conditions that are available to veterans after the 1-year discharge period. So that is one thing. At the end of that video, I actually talked about these conditions, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper for those that maybe dropped off the video prematurely and they missed it. I'm usually not talking just to talk. I'm trying to get information out there. Sometimes it might take me a minute to get there, so I apologize for that, but I definitely am trying. So what we're looking at here is, first, it's important to understand what a presumptive does, right? So a presumptive eliminates that need for a nexus. What that means is all you need to do is prove you have the condition. So if you have the condition, you have a diagnosis for it, if it's on the presumptive list. Now, there's different presumptive lists for different things. So for the most part, presumptive lists will include a location and a time frame of service. So like Vietnam with Agent Orange, or Camp Lejeune for the water, or Iraq, Afghanistan for the PACT Act presumptives, right? So these ones work a little bit differently, and there's not a specific area that you had to serve. So in other words, you could be a Cold War veteran and stayed in the States the whole time, and that's fine. Just simply serving active duty is your eligibility, right? So you served active duty. Then for these 4 conditions, they have a time frame after service. So if you got diagnosed within a certain period of time, for 3 of them, then you can get granted if you have that condition. And I'll break those down. And then the 4th one, there is no time frame. So if you ever come down with this, which heaven forbid you don't, right? At the end of the day, nobody wants any of this stuff. But if you do, or you know somebody who does, grandparent, brother, sister, aunt, whatever, right? Friends, anybody who has these conditions, they need to know so that way they can file a claim for them. So now let's get into it. And I'm going to put this information in the description below. So I'll copy and paste it, put it in there, and I'll put the link. It's at the bottom of the page when you go to this URL. This is basically the page for the disabilities that appear within 1 year after discharge. At the bottom of that page, well, toward the bottom, there's going to be a section there that says exceptions to the 1 year rule. So the exceptions to the 1 year rule, I'm going to just read it. The following diseases are covered even if they appear more than 1 year after you separated from service. Okay, the following diseases are covered even if they appear more than 1 year after you separated from service. First one, Hansen's disease. And then it has parentheses, a long-lasting infection that affects your skin, nerves, and mucous membranes. Can appear within 3 years after discharge. So if you got diagnosed for Hansen's disease within 3 years after you discharged from the military, you will be covered with the presumptive condition. They just assume or presume that that condition is as a result of your service. Tuberculosis, an infection that attacks your lungs and sometimes other areas of your body, can appear within 3 years of discharge. So again, tuberculosis, you get the little prick about right here and the bubble, and you go back a week later or whatever and have them check it out. If you have tuberculosis and it was diagnosed within 3 years of discharge, that's a presumptive condition. You need to prove that you were diagnosed within 3 years, so you need to dig that out. And then you would submit that with your DD-214 that shows your exit date, and as long as your diagnosis was within the 3 years of your discharge, you're golden. The third one, multiple sclerosis, right? So a long-lasting illness that can cause numbness, weakness, and many other symptoms. It can appear within 7 years of discharge. So if you come down with MS within 7 years of your discharge date and you're diagnosed, then it's a presumptive condition. You can file for that. The VA says if you have MS and you got diagnosed at 6 years, 9 months after your discharge from the military, they are going to presume that it's service-connected and they're going to give it to you. Important to know. The last one is ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, okay? Long-lasting illness that affects muscle control, right? It can appear, are you ready? Any time after discharge. So if you are a veteran or you know somebody who has Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and they got diagnosed whenever, but they served some active duty, that's a presumptive condition and they can get rated for that. Okay, what happens is sadly, somebody can have one of these diseases within the 3 year, 7 year, or any time for Lou Gehrig's disease, and they have it and they're like, oh, yeah, I can't prove anything that happened, and it's not on. I don't rate for any of these, other types of presumptives if it falls under something else, and I can't prove that the military caused it. That's a waste of time for me to try to file that. Or if you're talking to somebody who's trying to help you with their claim and they're like, well, you got to prove that it started during your time in service. BS. Right here. Okay? Important to know. The saddest thing in the world is when somebody has something like this and they could have been rated and years go by and you never find out until the veteran passes away and the spouse comes in, and then it's like, hey, look, he could have been covered, but wasn't. Or it's the last days of life and you're trying to file a bunch of VA stuff and you talk with somebody who actually knows what's going on, and then they start getting you connected. But it's, get it now if you're under any of these things. So again, those are the four big ones that give you some additional time after service for diagnosis in order to be service connected. Very, very, very huge information. And it's even better if we can get it in the hands of others, right? So remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong. So let's make it happen. Thanks. Have a great one, and we'll see you tomorrow.